Well, my mug of coffee is run cold, which means it's time for our third and final video on telling stories in our preaching. In this video, we're going to be talking about the importance of tension, of creating tension in our stories. Tension is the sense of anticipation, of concern, maybe even of discomfort that the best stories create. If you pay attention to the ministry of Jesus and watch how he interacts with people, not just what he says, also what he says, but not just what he says, you'll see how often he uses discomfort as a tool to open the eyes and ears of his listeners. Let's consider the tree diagram again. Most of us spend most of our time focused up here on our behaviors. This is not bad. There are behaviors that we simply need to stop it, particularly if you're a new believer and learning the new rhythms of life in God's kingdom. But again, over the long haul, it can become inadequate to transform the deepest parts of who we are. If our hearts are what give birth to our actions, ultimately, it's our hearts that must be changed, and not just our actions or our feelings. Moments of disruption, of confusion, of tension, force us to look elsewhere other than our behaviors. Or to put it another way, tension, disruption, confusion can begin lifting up our hearts to the surface, above ground a little bit, where we can see it and pay attention to it a little bit more. There are fundamentally only a few ways that you can preach a sermon. On the one hand, you can say everything. You can point out everything. You can seek to be exhaustive and essentially do live commentary. On the other hand, you can say one thing. You can seek to be surgical. You could think about it as the difference between a shotgun and a sniper rifle. So a shotgun that tries to say everything is going to have a wide spread. The dots being bullets, you see. And you might tickle the heart a little bit, but you'll cover a wide range of things and be a bit all over the place. If you focus as a sniper rifle, though, you can aim precise shots to the core parts of who people are. Now, inexperienced preachers, which it's not bad to be inexperienced, that's just a reality. If you're inexperienced, must commit to being a sniper rifle. Shotgun sermons from unskilled preachers are more often than not long, boring, and unhelpful. So maybe one day you can preach 30 verses for 90 minutes, but that day is probably not today, and you probably won't preach that sermon at Sojourn. So, if we're going to be sniper rifles, if we're going to focus in on the heart, tension is one of the ways we can hone in on our target. As you tell your story, here's how we're going to build some tension. As you tell your story, you have to first decide how it will end. This is another way of answering the question, what is your story about? What is the one thing you want your people to hear? What is the one shot that you want to hit by the end of your sermon? You must decide this early and with great clarity. If the one thing is the answer, then you move back from there to clarify what the question is. What is the point? And then, what is the need this point addresses? When you've clarified these two things, you're ready to create some narrative tension. What follows are a few simple, practical principles for your storytelling. There's plenty more that we could say, but hopefully these will help get you started. So first, you can build tension in your stories by clarifying cause and effect relationships. Here's what I mean. Stories that clarify the cause and effect keep people engaged and interested. When you force your listeners to guess what's going on, to guess what's happening, you may force them to disengage from their story, especially at an emotional level. They jump all the way up into their minds to try to make sense of what you're saying. They're removed from the moment. So your best bet is often to keep events chronological and clarify what happened and why. So for instance, instead of saying, I can remember as a kid reading in my room one day, a better way, a way that you could begin creating some tension in your story would be to say something like, I can remember as a kid overhearing my parents fighting, and so I went up my room to read by myself. Build tension by clarifying cause and effect relationships. And don't forget what we said in the last videos. Show it as much as you can. Don't simply tell it. Second, Build tension by appealing to desire. Remember, we're speaking to the core of who we are down here at the heart. That's where we're aiming our bullet. Tension is caused in all of life when we have an unmet desire, and people are coming to our churches on Sundays and to our homes throughout the week, to our campfires in our backyards, filled with unmet desires. We can help people wake up to these desires by being vulnerable with ourselves. So with the same example as above, we could say something like, I overheard my parents fighting, so I went up to my room to read by myself because I wanted to finally feel safe for once. And we're speaking to a desire there. We're opening up about what's going on inside of us and giving permission for other folks to feel what they're feeling that they may not even be aware of. So whether your story is funny, sad, inspirational, scary, whatever, you must appeal to their desire. And this can get dangerous. This can get sensitive with people. So as the one sharing the story, you have to make sure that you know the desire that you're appealing to. If you don't, they probably never will, or it could just get confusing and painful. So build tension by appealing to desire. Finally, resolve tension as late as possible. You want to think of it like a slow cooker where the tension's building and building and building. The longer the tension builds, the more exposure a person's heart receives, the more time in the light it receives. The soul needs time to bubble to the surface, and we need time to process what's happening. If you resolve the tension too quickly, you let the listener off the hook, and all the work you've put into your story will be wasted. You're not failing if people are uncomfortable. You're not failing if the room feels awkward. There is no perfect place to resolve the tension. It's a matter of discernment, but later is almost always better. A simple way to put it is, don't be in a rush to make the room comfortable again. Don't be in a rush to put your listener at ease. So here we go again. How can we create tension in the story? Clarify cause and effect relationships, appeal to desires, and resolve tension as late as possible. In the months to come, well, we'll have some more videos that talk specifically about how this applies to sermons. But for now, take what you've heard and go and start telling some stories. See you out there, kids.